Casa Lake. I'm hungry, so today I'm going to show you how to make lavash. Lavosh is a kind of a cracker. When I was little, my mom used to buy them and they were thin cracker about as big around as a pizza. And we would break pieces off and they were just delicious. So I found a recipe and I scaled it to make just the right amount. And I'd like to show you. So we'll start with some flour. I need 1/3 cup. Make sure it's even. One-third cup flour. 1/8 teaspoon salt. We stir those together. Now, sometimes when we put flour and salt together, we're making something that gets big and fluffy, like bread or biscuits. But this time, we're not adding baking soda or baking powder or yeast, so it's not going to get very fluffy. The next ingredient we need is 2 teaspoons of olive oil. Spill it 2, and I'm going to need another teaspoon for brushing the crackers when they're ready to go in the oven. So I'll put 1 teaspoon here. Okay. Then I'm going to need 2 teaspoons of water. 1, 2. All right. So we can mix that together to form a dough. And the recipe that I saw for this said mix it until it makes a shaggy dough. Shaggy dough. I've heard of shaggy dogs and shaggy coats and shaggy hair, but I had never heard of shaggy dough before. But I bet we'll be able to tell when it looks shaggy. Let's see here. Looks kind of crumbly now. Doesn't look very shaggy. It's not really sticking together all that well, and I'm going to need it to stick together. So I'm going to add, yes, thank you, Ivy. Ivy suggests I add some water. I will do that. I don't know if I need much though. A little more water. Maybe like half a teaspoon.
Oh boy, what's going on?
And we'll stir that and see what happens. Oh yes, it's starting to stick together nicely. Now the easiest way to mix this up after it gets a little bit crumbly, but not yet shaggy, is to use your hands. Making sure that you washed your hands before you cook. Always, right?
She washed her hands. You just didn't see it.
Thank you, Ivy. That would have been 20 seconds we could have spent baking instead of washing hands. They don't need to see that. They know how. Okay, so this is sticking together pretty nicely. You can see that it's a little bit crumbly, but that's going to be okay. I don't want it to get sticky, though. That's going to be difficult to handle if it's sticky. So, whoops, I need to flour my surface because I'm going to use a rolling pin. knead the dough 10 times. That's going to help it stick together. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. This flour will keep the dough from sticking to my counter, which is very good. I'm going to make this as flat as I possibly can with my hands first. Then I'm going to use my trusty rolling pin and roll it very flat. It needs to be about 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch thick, which is as thick as 2 dimes stacked together. Or if you have a ruler that shows millimeters, you can use that too. So this is a pretty tough dough. You might have to, goodness, you might have to push hard when you're rolling. The best thing that I learned about rolling with a rolling pin is that you always start in the middle of the dough and roll outwards to really get it nice and flat. I think that's about as flat as I can make it. All right. Let us brush it with the olive oil that we saved, that Ivy moved over. Thank you, sweetheart. We're just going to brush the top. And if you don't have a pastry brush, you could use your fingers for this. That's just fine, as long as they're clean. All right, there we go, covered with olive oil. And I have some spices to sprinkle on. I chose rosemary and garlic, and we're just gonna sprinkle it over the top. I finally figured out the right way to sprinkle something. I used to do it really close down by the surface, and all of my sprinkles would go in one place. So I learned that if you hold it up a little higher and sprinkle, they go in more directions. All right, so we have our dough ready. We need a baking sheet. And mine has parchment paper on it, but that's not required. And I think I'm going to cut these in strips. All right.
Adult supervision when you're using knives.
This is a very dull table knife, so
Still.
I think people know to be careful around knives, but it's a good reminder. Thank you, honey. All right, so we got them cut into strips and put them on the baking sheet.
A little bit apart so they don't stick together when they're baked.
That's right, Ivy. They don't really expand. Sometimes when you bake things that rise, they kind of get bigger, and so they have to be very far apart. These aren't going to rise or grow, so you don't have to keep them too far apart. So put these in the oven, and I'm not going to ask you to wait while they bake. They go in the oven for about 6 minutes, and when they come out, they look like this, and they're crunchy. If you pick them up and they wiggle, they're not done yet, but they're nice and crunchy, and it's just the right amount for a friend, you and a friend. Enjoy.